Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with fabulous concert programs, number 44. So there's a lot of programs for us to have some fun with and for you to listen to at home, because we're never going to see them live. At least not many of them anyway. I haven't noticed any, but we'll see what happens. This is the conclusion of our Mendelssohn Symphony cycle. Now, we've already included all 5 numbered Mendelssohn symphonies, but as many of you have already mentioned, Mendelssohn actually wrote quite a few others. He wrote 13 string symphonies before we get to Symphony Number 1. And so I thought I'd come up with a program that featured at least one of them, String Symphony Number 8. And the reason I chose the 8th is because it's not necessarily a string symphony. Mendelssohn later orchestrated it. He arranged it for a full symphony orchestra, and that's the version I had in mind. Mendelssohn's model for his 8th string symphony, as for many of the initial ones, well, let me just talk about them for a second. The string symphonies are phenomenal pieces of music. Mendelssohn wrote them between like the ages of 12 and 14 or something like that. And what he does in these works is literally trace the development of the symphony in North Germany and later Vienna. So he starts with 6 of them that are in the style of the symphonies of C.P.E. Bach from the 1770s and 1780s in that area. They're 3-movement symphonies, and they're limited in scope, but they're perfectly written, absolutely lovely. Then after that, the scope of what he's doing begins to expand, and he takes as his model Mozart. And then as we get closer to the late symphonies, he incorporates a lot of polyphony that he learned from his study of Bach and also his love of Beethoven. And so they start to become more late classical. And then by the time you get to the end, they don't sound like anybody else. They do consist of this amalgamation of various elements, but the mix and the tone and the style is pure Mendelssohn. And after number 13, he writes his first big symphony. But these are fully formed and beautiful works. And number 8 is gorgeous in its version for full symphony orchestra. Now, it hasn't been recorded that often that way, but one of the best is Thomas Fye on Hensler, which is it's with the Heidelberg Symphony in its period instrument style. And it's a wonderfully exciting performance of a beautiful work whose Mozartian model is obvious but not slavish. In other words, you can tell what Mendelssohn's thinking of and who he's thinking of, but there's nothing by Mozart that sounds quite like what Mendelssohn is doing. And so it's just a splendid piece, and it features on the first half of this program, preceded by Mozart. I mean, you got to do Mozart. The Magic Flute Overture, which is the perfect opening to introduce us to the Mendelssohn, which is much more than just a pastiche. As I said, it's a homage, but it's not tacky or imitative in the sense that Mendelssohn was a genius, really as amazing as Mozart was when you consider when he wrote it. And you really get the sense they're just 2 kindred spirits. So I think this version of the 8th String Symphony for full symphony orchestra, which is virtually unknown, would really make a delightful first half finale. Then there's an intermission. Then what are we going to put in the second half? Well, I wanted to carry forward the theme of some sort of transcription kind of thing. Now, Mendelssohn, of course, transcribed himself when he did his 8th String Symphony. And there were some others that I could have done, but I want this to be something kind of like popular and fun. So I chose the Schoenberg arrangement of the Brahms Piano Quartet in G minor, which is fabulous. Now, this thing has gotten lots of recordings, especially in the past couple of decades, because it's like having an extra Brahms symphony out there with wacky percussion and some crazy things in the orchestra. But, for some reason, you don't see it live very often. You really don't. And I'm surprised because it's just fantastic. It's a wonderful arrangement. It's gorgeous. It's a full major symphonic exordium. And so I think doing the Brahms Schoenberg is a fabulous second half that builds on the theme of transcription, the idea of taking something from one medium and rearranging it for another, although in this case you're dealing with a chamber work arranged for a full, extravagant modern symphony orchestra, whereas Mendelssohn keeps things to classical proportions. But still, they make a wonderful program if you mix them all together, and I think that this particular program makes a lovely conclusion to our series devoted to the Mendelssohn symphonies, especially since we're finishing with something that's practically unknown and that deserves to be performed and savored for the masterwork, maybe a minor masterwork, but the masterwork that it is. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's see what comes up next in this series. Take care.